Shabbat Shalom. It is the first Shabbat of the month of Elul, this last month of 5,780. As I say that, this year is coming to an end, and there are incredible responsibilities that happen in this month of Elul. In this month of Elul, we are supposed to do acts of reflection, looking back at this past year, thinking about our mistakes, thinking about the damage that we have done in the world, the harm we might have caused, looking back at the brokenness of our lives. We're supposed to do cheshbon nefesh. We're supposed to be doing an accounting of our soul, really adding up, really feeling the weight, the kavod of our human experience of this past year. And everywhere you look was we slichot, that we have a holiday of apology, that cheshbon nefesh, this accounting of the soul. So often it feels like it's heavy with reflection. It's heavy with being solemn. We're supposed to use this last month to get ourselves ready for Yamim Noraim, for the days of awe. The days of awe. The days of shaking and quaking. We're supposed to use these days to get ready. It is easy to hear that, to look at the rituals, to think about the tasks and feel the weight of them. How we're supposed to look back and how we're supposed to take stock and we're supposed to reflect and we're supposed to feel. And I was thinking and reflecting and considering that in a little phrase. During the class I was teaching about the Judaism and trees. And the other rabbi, Katie Allen, who is a wonderful colleague and is teaching with me, she reminded me that Elul, in addition to being this time of heavy and thoughtful reflection and accounting, also has another meaning that goes with it. If you take the word Elul, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed, it can also be used as a reminder of the Song of Songs. Ani ledodi, v'dodi li. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. Here, in this time of year, even as we're supposed to do cheshbon hanefesh and do this hard look and reflection and feel the guilt, consequence, we're supposed to feel all of that. But if we think about Elul also, it's Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I, my beloved, and my beloved is mine. In addition to all that heavy and hard work, maybe there's space for something else too. Maybe we have an opportunity in this time of reflection to do acts of remembering moments of love and kindness and joy. Maybe we need to infuse it with that sweetness, ahava, love, and chesed, kindness, as much as we do those acts of reflection and accounting. Now, it's a very hard task to do, and how do you flip back and forth through it? One of the poems that I often offer, and we have it in our Yizkor service, I say it at funerals all the time. So I was thinking about how do you switch back from that place of heaviness and that place of this is the hard work of Elul to Ani ledodi v'dodi li. That place of my beloved and love and kindness and sweetness and hugs and gifts and just all of that passion and warmth and light. And I remembered that poem. When I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around them and give them what you need to give me. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls. You can love me most by sharing your simchas, your joyous moments, and multiplying your mitzvot. You can love me most by letting me live in your eyes and not only in your mind. You can love me most by letting your love reach out to all of your loved ones, by embracing them and living in their love. And when you say Kaddish for me, remember what our Torah teaches. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I thought about that poem. It just resonated in such a different way. I use it right before Kaddish so often, and that's how I always think about it. But here, it's so different. It's so incredible. Instead of using it for Kaddish, here I am saying, what do I do when I'm looking at the end of the year? As the year is coming to an end and I'm doing all of this reflection, what if I infuse, like the poem says, put your arms around others and give them what you need to give me. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls. You can love me most by sharing your simchas and multiplying your mitzvot. What if at the end of the year, in addition to all the heavy looking back, if I can take and find a way of all of the sweetness and joy and just moments of sparks of connection and bring those, even as this year is coming to an end and all the opportunities for those moments for this year come to end, and think about what do I do to plant them, to get them ready for this year to come. That idea of filling Elul, this month of reflection, with acts of giving and love at the end of the year by taking powerful moments of ahava and chesed from the past year and thinking about planting them. It is a powerful way of reorienting myself in this time and space. And I say that, and I read this poem, and I give you that image, and I also know on some level it's really esoteric. Because I say, oh yeah, just look back, think about the love, and then you'll just keep transferring it, transforming it. It's really easy to say, but it's so hard to do. And I was thinking about that poem, and that turn of perspective and that turn of labor of Elul from Cheshbon HaNefesh to Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. And something else, another piece of story just shot into my mind. This is Shabbat of Shoftim. It's a Shabbat in Deuteronomy where we talk about judges and the rules for waging war. And one of the rules that's given, interestingly enough, is when you besiege a city, you're supposed to spare the trees that are around the city. And it is the origin of a Jewish value called Ba'al Tashchit, do not waste. And so here you are thinking of how you preserve the trees. As you're going into the world, as you're doing these acts of breaking down something that is resisting you, you protect the trees. As we're going and doing these acts of Cheshbon HaNefesh, how do we preserve Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li? That value, that cycle was in my mind, thinking about the trees when I remembered a rather incredible tree story. How many of you have heard about the Anne Frank tree? There was a tree, a chestnut tree, outside of Anne Frank's secret annex in Amsterdam. She actually writes about it a few times in the Diary of Anne Frank. She wrote at one point in May of '44, she wrote, "Our chestnut tree is in full bloom. It's covered with leaves and it is even more beautiful than last year." Here's Anne Frank, 16 years old, locked away in the secret annex, knowing that the Germans are looking for them, knowing that Europe is falling apart. In the midst of the Holocaust, she looks out the only window of the secret annex, and what is her comment for that day? How beautiful that chestnut tree is, how there is beauty and sweetness in the world. She adds to that, and she says, "As long as this tree exists, how can I be sad?" As long as that tree exists, how can I be sad? Something interesting happened. Because trees don't last forever, those moments of love, of connection, of ahava and chesed don't last forever. And yet there is something powerful we can do in this month of Elul. Because in 2005, the tree was suffering from a disease. It had been there for over 170 years. And then it was becoming diseased. And that tree outside the secret annex fell and died. Just as this year is coming to an end, it is finite. And yet, in this Shabbat, I offer to you, as we look back And I say, taking those moments of love, how do we take them and move them forward in a different way, taking their energy and planting incredible seeds? And I say that with this story because that was not the end of the Anne Frank tree. As they saw that something was happening to this tree, those who were in charge of it, those who were taking care of it, did something absolutely extraordinary. They went and took saplings, they planted seeds from that chestnut tree. And they didn't just plant them at the Anne Frank house at the secret annex. No, they took that light and that love, that reminder of Anne Frank saying, I'm looking out in the middle of this incredible darkness and I'm finding hope, I'm finding joy, I'm watching the world go on and knowing there is sweetness, there is ahava, there is love, there is chesed, there is kindness. And they took it and they planted those saplings in places all over the world. There's one on the front lawn of the US Capitol. There's one at the Children's Museum in Indianapolis. There's one in California and New York and Seattle and Massachusetts and Arkansas and Michigan and Idaho and Arkansas and in Liberty Park near a memorial for September 11th in New York City. These trees are in the United States. They're all over the world. They took that reminder, that little piece that Anne Frank said, see, there is something greater in the world. There is beauty and there is light and love. They heard her speak about it. They knew the tree was there. And even as it was coming to an end, they found a way to take that spark and spread it across the world and not just keep the tree alive, but just like that poem, give that love away. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. And that's what they did with that tree. They spread it far and wide. So we tell that story. We remember that moment of Anne Frank, so full of ahava, of love, and chesed, kindness. And so on this Shabbat, not only do we honor trees, not only do we acknowledge this year is coming to an end, not only do we do acts of reflection and acts of repentance and acts of slicha, of apology and kapara, atonement and cheshbon nefesh, accounting of our soul, but on this Shabbat, as this year comes to an end, I look to each of you to also, in addition to all of that heavy stuff that we have to do to get ready for our days of awe, just remember that refrain. Ani lidodi v'dodi li, in this month of Elul, I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. Love doesn't die, people do. This year is coming to an end. Let us take all of the beautiful love, even the tiniest little embers of it. Let's find ways of counting it, of weighing it, of feeling it, of embracing it. And let us turn, letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls, and reach out into our hearts, into our families, into the world around us. And like they did for those saplings of that tree that Anne Frank saw, let us spread it. Get it ready in this month, so in this new year, we can spread that love and that kindness far and wide. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.